You know that the American people were well aware of the charges that Donald Trump was facing in this case and several others. What do you make of the argument that they essentially served as a jury, and by re-electing him and now making him president-elect, they have weighed in on these matters?
I don't give any credence to that argument. I think what was very clear is that people voted for Donald Trump because they thought that he was going to improve the lives of the middle class, and perhaps in addition that he would secure the border. They did not vote for him to dismantle our democracy, to attack the Constitution, to politicize all of our agencies, and certainly not as a referendum on his criminal cases. Those cases should have been played out in a court of law. I believe the Attorney General should have started the investigation a lot earlier. I believe the Supreme Court should have moved much quicker in its opinion. And Donald Trump should not have been able to run out the clock on these charges. But I certainly don't think anything that came from the election was a reflection of support for Donald Trump getting rid of these cases, largely because the American people, as you and I, as well, we don't know what the actual evidence is.
I imagine that a lot of voters had to know that those cases would go away if he were president, given what you said about the Supreme Court's ruling on immunity. That doesn't change the way you think about this at all? The fact that voters must have known that he wasn't going to prison or to be convicted of some of these crimes if he was going to be elected?
Well, look, I think ultimately the majority of voters who voted for Donald Trump decided that, what they're dealing with in their day-to-day lives, understandably matters a lot more than what's going on in a criminal court with Donald Trump. I think it's sad. I think it should be disqualifying, but I certainly understand why people are more focused on their price of groceries, on their job prospects, on the affordability crisis. But I do expect, Boris, that the special counsel will release a very detailed and exhaustive report outlining all of his evidence. That is the ordinary course for a special counsel when they wind down. And I would expect that the special counsel will do that before he leaves office.
And Congressman, before we let you go, I have to ask you about this. You recently introduced a resolution to clarify the Constitution's two-term limit for presidents. Do you think that there's a serious push among Republicans to change federal law to allow Trump to run in 2028?
Well, let me just give you the example that I just mentioned, which is that it appears to have been completely normalized that Donald Trump could either pardon himself or dismiss criminal charges against him if he becomes president. At one point, that was anathema, and everyone was like, oh, my God, that's crazy. That can't possibly be. It's the same thing now. This is how Donald Trump operates. He floats it. He normalizes it, and then it just becomes part of the common parlance. And so we wanted to lay down a marker to say and put everyone on record, Republicans included, that the Constitution is very clear that he cannot serve another term. And what my fear is that with him floating that, with some of his cabinet picks, which clearly are prioritizing political loyalists, that Donald Trump is well on his way to dismantling our government and the way that it operates. And we and Congress, the Republicans especially in the Senate, need to be a check and balance to ensure that our government continues to function for the people, not for Elon Musk and other billionaires.
Congressman Dan Goldman, we have to leave the conversation there. Appreciate you joining us, sir.
Thank you.
We want to go back to